Stephanopoulos was referring to a lawsuit by E. Jean Carroll, who alleged that Trump raped her in 1996 in the dressing room of a New York City department store. While the jury found that Carroll's attorneys did not prove the rape allegation, they did agree that Trump forcibly sexually abused and defamed her and ruled that Trump had to pay Carroll $5 million. So let's talk a little bit about the distinctions here. And
yeah, you better talk about it because somebody had to come out the pocket for it. 15 million. ABC. This is wild though. Anna Kasparian shutting down Cenk Uygur is what we're going to see. Mid-conversation to go full MAGA right now. But she keeps giving these little bits of things to feed on for the right. George Stephanopoulos, this situation, had to come out the pocket, at least ABC, paying Trump for defamation twice. Anna tries to frame it as, it's not that bad. But if you keep on listening, grape, this is a problem. If you're going to say somebody graped somebody, you better have your facts straight. Let's get back to the Young Turks, Anna Kasparian, Cenk Uygur. Let's go.
And how New York actually changed its laws following this lawsuit that E. Jean Carroll had brought against Donald Trump. So New York actually had a pretty strict definition for rape. At the time, it had to be vaginal penetration by a penis. Now, Trump was alleged to have forcibly penetrated her with his fingers. I apologize, for getting into the details, but it's pertinent to this story. Later, though, New York, I should say, actually changed. They passed a new law that expanded the definition of rape.
Temporarily, they did. It's the same law that they used to get somebody that goes by did. Did he? Did he is hemmed up because of the same law that they changed. And the law was pretty much changed, as we can tell. Pretty much we know it was changed to go straight at Trump. Anna Kasparian back in this Young Turks. Let's hear what they have to say.
Literally, though, rape is defined as penetration, no matter how slight, of the vagina or anus with any body part or object, or oral penetration by a sex organ of another person without the consent of the victim. So it really depends on the jurisdiction. New York had a very strict definition, but they later changed it to be broader, like what we have on a federal level. But nonetheless, what George Stephanopoulos said at the time of that interview with Nancy Mace was inaccurate. And so at that point, Donald Trump pounced on it and filed a lawsuit against ABC News. And so rather than really fight the defamation case, which by the way, had gotten to a point where they were gonna do
discovery.
What is it called when you're depositions? They were about to do depositions. ABC News decides, let's settle it instead. As part of the settlement, ABC will pay the $15 million to the Trump Presidential Library, which currently only exists online, plus another $1 million in Trump's attorney fees, court records show. That $1 million is to be paid by George Stephanopoulos himself. And the network also added a note to the online story about the interview, noting that both ABC and Stephanopoulos regret the comments. Now look, this has made members of the media, legal.
I don't know, she might have been talking about, I thought Anna Kasparian, the word she was looking for, and that's happened to me all the time, forgetting the words, was discovery. Because ABC News settled with Donald Trump, in my opinion, to avoid the discovery process. Because when you do that, everything's open. Your books are open. You can look at emails. That's how they found out about the Tucker texts. We talked about in a separate video. Tucker Carlson said many defamatory statements against Donald Trump. He really didn't like Donald Trump, at least in his text messages. He said that. And that was the discovery process when you don't settle. A lot of times people settle to avoid that. Let's get back to Anna Kasparian, the Young Turks, getting in on Trump, E. Jean Carroll, and George Stephanopoulos and ABC.
Legal experts and liberal pundits very upset because they feel that this sets a terrible precedent for the press. So Democratic attorney Mark Elias wrote, knee bent, ring kissed, another legacy news outlet chooses obedience. Reporter Oliver Willis argued on Threads that this is actually how democracy dies. MSNBC legal analyst Barbara McQuaid believes that this settlement will have a chilling effect on the media. And I think that that
was kind of the point why Donald Trump did it. I think this is the legal system. You guys on the other side, not Anna Kasparian, not Cenk Uygur, the establishment, the corporate left, Democrats did lawfare. The case of Grape against Trump, civil case, is lawfare. It was years, decades ago. There's no credibility there to me to even bring it up. It was past the statute of limitations until they changed the law, pretty much just for Trump, and closed the window again. It wasn't even a permanent law. It was just temporary because they knew they didn't want that thing open too long. There's no credibility here. It's disgusting. So yeah, Trump can go back and sue. I think all's fair game.
Those predictions might be correct because now we're hearing that Donald Trump is in fact emboldened and is now planning on filing lawsuits against pollsters, lawsuits against CBS, Bob Woodward, the Des Moines Register. In fact, here he is talking about Ann Seltzer's Iowa poll leading up to the election, which was pretty ridiculous. But suing her over it sounds a little crazy. Let's watch.
I'm doing this not because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel I have an obligation to. I'm going to be bringing one against the people in Iowa, their newspaper, which had a very, very good pollster who got me right all the time. And then just before the election, she said I was going to lose by 3 or 4 points, and it became the biggest story all over the world.
So, look, I am worried about the chilling effect.
You ever heard this, Anna Kasparian? What's good for the goose is good for the gander. What's going on here? I thought you had a more based perspective. So really running around and trying to kiss the butt of Glenn Beck and whoever else, you still have takes this bad?
On the press. Now, the press should be careful and you shouldn't be sloppy and you should go out of your way to be accurate. But the other thing is, look, in order to win a defamation suit, the person filing the suit would have to prove actual malice, meaning that the Trump team would have to prove that George Stephanopoulos knowingly lied and kept saying that he was found liable of rape.
Yeah, so maybe there's something in discovery that would have made that easy to prove, Anna. That's what she was talking about. I don't think she was talking about deposition. I think she was talking about discovery, meaning your email communications. Maybe somebody had already, maybe a producer or somebody had already told George Stephanopoulos that don't say this, because when you're having these conversations, that's the whole point of a producer. If I was producing the George Stephanopoulos show, I would be going through my resources and saying, hey, this is what you can say, this is what you can't say. How much you want to bet that happened? And George Stephanopoulos got in that rhythm and that mood. Nancy Mace actually was terrible in that interview, and he got hype and went too far. Let's hear about what Cenk has to say. Cenk Uygur.
And so I don't know why they decided to. Okay, go ahead, since you know.
Yeah, so look, do I know for a fact, have I seen their internal documents? Of course not. But my significant guess here is that they were going to go to deposition and discovery, and Stephanopoulos was going to testify the next day, and they didn't want that. And that's the real reason they settled, not because they're going to lose, but because they have damaging things that would be found out in discovery. And so probably about completely other topics, right? So they did this as a way to cover their own ass, but it damned us all. And I'm going to explain why it damned us all. But first of all, on how easy it would have been to win the case. So let me read to you something from CNN. A judge concluded in August 2023, when dismissing Trump's countersuit against Carroll, that the claim that Trump raped Carroll was, quote, substantially true. The judge wrote that Trump, quote, raped her in the broader sense of that word as people generally understand it, though not as it is narrowly defined by New York state law. So what Anna read you about New York state law is true, and that would have been helpful to Trump in his case. But the judge in the other case, again, about the same issue of Carroll, when Trump countersued, said, yes, brother, but that's what people normally call rape. It's just that New York has this weird law where they don't call it rape. So you're gonna try to win this countersuit against Carroll defaming you based on this technicality in New York law, and it's never gonna fly. I dismiss your case.
So I have a counter to the point that you're making, because typically with these types of defamation suits, especially if the individual filing the suit is a public figure like Donald Trump is, the judge tosses it out.
Yeah.
Because it's incredibly difficult to prove actual malice.
Yeah.
So
But it wasn't tossed out. That typically happens by this point.
There's got to be a reason why the judge didn't toss it out.
No.
And decided to pursue it all the way to the point where they were about to do depositions.
So let me be.
Anna's right. Yeah, I don't. Why wouldn't the judge did not toss it out? That was a warning sign to ABC.
Clear about that. That's not exactly right, Anna. So in the first layer, before you get a deposition and discoveries, the judge is not allowed to consider factual matters, okay? So it can't decide, hey, is it fair to say that it was defamation based on the use of the word rape or not? They can't make that decision. They can only make the decision on matters of law in the beginning. So what this judge is saying is, by law, it's not clear, because New York says that's not rape, everyone else on planet Earth says it is. So I can't make a ruling on that. Now we're gonna have to go to trial for me to make a ruling on that. So it's actually a very normal thing that the judge did. So that's not the issue. The issue is ABC's reaction to that normal ruling. What they should do normally is go forward with the trial.
Now, I don't think what Cenk is saying adds up. If it was if everything was normal, Cenk, then I think ABC would have been fine with it. But I do agree with him earlier. There's something to hide. So who cares, Cenk? Here's the takeaway, Cenk. Anna has the better takeaway. Basically, well, Cenk was right. The takeaway is Donald Trump wanted to ice the media. You have to. You have to figuratively punch back. You can't be a punching bag. You guys and the Young Turks still are not fair in covering Donald Trump, and he has to punch back. And the reason why Cenk sounds so somber and sad is because he knows he could be next. He doesn't want to be next.
The next clip is ready below. Welcome to After Show Carnage.